The bank lobby was unusually quiet that morning, filled only with the hushed tapping of keyboards and the faint murmur of customers waiting in line. Sunlight streamed through the glass walls, catching dust particles that floated lazily in the air. At the very end of the queue stood an elderly woman, frail, thin, and clutching a worn leather purse as if it were her last possession. Her clothes were simple, old but neatly ironed. Her shoes were scuffed at the toes, and her gray hair was tied into a loose bun. She looked out of place among the polished businessmen and well-dressed customers who shifted impatiently. A few steps ahead of her stood Daniel Mercer, a young billionaire and CEO of a major tech company. Recognizable to many, admired by even more, Daniel wasn't used to waiting in line. But today he had insisted, "I need to handle this myself," he told his assistant. And so he stood there, suited in luxury, checking his watch every few seconds. The old woman looked at him with gentle eyes. She didn't recognize him. To her, he was just another impatient young man with too much hurry in his veins. After nearly 15 minutes, Daniel noticed the soft wheeze in her breath. She clutched her purse tighter, shifting her weight tiredly. He sighed, rolling his eyes dramatically. "Ma'am," he said loudly so others could hear, "if you don't know how to use the ATM, why even stand in the main queue? Just let those who have real work go first." A few people chuckled. The old woman's eyes lowered in embarrassment. I'm sorry," she whispered. "I just want to see my balance. I don't know how to use those machines." Daniel smirked. "Then ask someone outside. Why waste everyone's time?" A banker overheard and hurried to help, but the old woman gently shook her head. "No, it's okay, I can wait." Her voice trembled, but she stood firm. Eventually, her turn arrived. She stepped up to the counter, hands shaking as she handed over her ID and debit card. The teller, a young woman with kind eyes, smiled warmly. "Of course, ma'am. You want to check your balance?" "Yes, dear," the old woman replied. "Just that." Daniel, curious and still smirking, watched from the side. Probably $5, he thought cruelly. But the teller's finger froze on the keyboard. Her expression changed from routine politeness into confusion to shock. She typed again, double-checked, triple-checked. Her eyes widened. "Ma'am," she whispered, leaning forward, "Are you sure you just want to check the balance?" The old woman nodded calmly. Daniel frowned. "What's taking so long?" he muttered. The teller slowly turned the screen toward the elderly woman. The balance displayed was so large that Daniel's smirk faded instantly. The old woman blinked in surprise, as if she had forgotten she was wealthy at all. And Daniel Mercer, the millionaire who had laughed at her moments before, froze where he stood, speechless for the first time in years. Pens stopped moving. People in line leaned forward. A security guard nearly dropped his coffee. Even the manager peeked out from his office, startled by the teller's tone. But the old woman simply blinked once, twice, and then smiled gently. "Oh, that sounds right," she said softly, as if the amount were nothing more than a grocery total. Daniel's jaw almost hit the floor. What, that old lady nearly $9 million? He felt the heat rush to his ears, the embarrassment burning into his skin. After mocking her for being slow, for not knowing how to use an ATM, for wasting time, he stepped back, hoping no one remembered what he'd said. But the people around him stared with raised eyebrows, clearly remembering every word. The teller cleared her throat. "Ma'am, with an amount this large, are you sure you only want to check the balance? We can help you make investments, transfers." The old woman chuckled. "No, dear, I just wanted to make sure it was all still there." The manager hurried over with a big smile plastered on his face. "Mrs. Whitmore, ma'am, why didn't you tell us it was you? We have a private lounge, priority services." She lifted a hand gently. "No fuss, son. I like being treated like everyone else." That sentence hit Daniel like a punch. She turned toward him, her old eyes warm, not angry. "Young man, sometimes we think we know people because of how they look. But wealth doesn't always show on the outside." Daniel swallowed hard. I'm sorry for how I spoke to you," he said quietly. "I shouldn't have assumed." She studied him for a moment, then, unexpectedly, she smiled. "You remind me of my grandson. Impatient, a little sharp around the edges, but he has a good heart. I believe you do too." He wasn't sure he deserved that, but her kindness softened something inside him. The old woman put her card away, zipped her purse, and turned to leave. But suddenly she paused, wobbling slightly. Her knees trembled. Daniel rushed forward, catching her elbow. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, dear. Just stood too long in line, that's all." Without hesitation, Daniel said, "Let me walk you home, or at least to your car." She looked surprised. "Oh, I suppose that would be nice." As they stepped outside into the bright afternoon sun, Daniel matched his pace to her slow steps. After a moment of silence, she spoke softly. "You know, when my husband passed, everyone assumed I'd fall apart. But he left me with good investments. I never cared for luxury. I live simply. Most people don't even know." Daniel nodded, humbled. "And yet," she added with a gentle chuckle, "even with all the money, sometimes the hardest thing is asking for help." Daniel looked down, feeling the weight of her words. He had judged her at first glance. But this woman, quiet, humble, and unknown to the world, had just taught him a lesson no business school ever could.